Unpopular opinion, but the main point of the story of Jonah is not just about his disobedience and how he gets swallowed by a whale. For those of you who don't know, here's a quick overview of the story of Jonah. So Jonah gets told by God to share a message with Nineveh. And instead of doing that, because he's scared, he hops on a boat and starts to flee to Tarshish. In that process of fleeing to Tarshish, which is very far across the sea, there is a massive storm that God makes happen because of his disobedience and doing the exact opposite of what God wanted him to do. And they have to throw Jonah overboard because they figure out that it's his fault that this is happening. They throw Jonah overboard, and he gets swallowed by a whale. And this is the infamous part of the story, right? He cries out to God. He gets swallowed by a whale. God saves him through being swallowed by the whale, spits him out 3 days later while he lived in the belly of a whale for 3 days, which is a metaphor for Jesus and the resurrection. And then he gets back on the path and goes to Nineveh and shares the message. So we can all see the main point of the story of Jonah, right? Where if God gives you a command and calls you to go somewhere, you go the exact opposite direction. There's going to be trouble. There's going to be challenges through that. And God will ultimately make your path straight, but there's consequences to your actions. So here's the key point here that this whole story is even about. This whole story started with a message that God had to give to Nineveh, right? And that message was that if they don't turn from their wicked ways, that they are going to be destroyed by God from heaven. He's going to rain fire down from heaven, and their entire city is going to be destroyed. And so this message gets around to everybody. Once Jonah gets on the right path and he goes to Nineveh, he shares the message, it gets spread around to everybody, and it gets to the king. And so the king has everybody fast for 3 days, and nobody can wear anything but a sackcloth, and they have to pray, and they turn away from their wicked ways. And God spares them. God actually does not destroy the town. And in the final chapter of the book, Jonah is actually upset that God did not destroy the town because he's like, what is the whole point of me going through all this trial if you didn't even do what you said you were going to do in the first place? And I just think it's a beautiful thing that God has grace and he has mercy upon us, that yes, there are consequences if you continue in the path of your wicked ways, but if you turn away from that, God will always accept you, and God will always welcome you in and to be a part of his kingdom. He just wants to be walking in fellowship with all of us and wants all of us to be guided by him. But if you continue down the path of wickedness, there is consequence to those actions. But we have the free choice to be on his side and be walking with the creator of the universe.